All right, I want to welcome to the show Amy Stark, and she is a personal transformational expert.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Amy, I would love for you to share what kind of led you to this journey of being what you are, where you're at now, and being connected spiritually and on this path.
Sure. Well, I was a science teacher, so this was not something that I really ever thought I'd be doing. I thought I was going to go down the traditional path of becoming a teacher and staying doing that for like 20 or 30 years. But unfortunately, I worked in a really, really stressful environment, my first teaching job, and I had to leave it. Like I couldn't take it anymore. And one of my friends mentioned that meditation might be helpful. And so I tried meditation and I loved it and I felt great. And I didn't expect that I would. Like I was actually scared to sit down and meditate. As the time progressed after leaving that job, I would meditate for 15 minutes, then 20 minutes, and then 30 and 40. And then I was working up to 2 hours at a time. And I was like, I got to cap it at 2 hours. Like this is getting crazy.
That's a
Uh,
lot.
yeah. I had to go to, the gym and like go to work, my new job. And also like crazy things were happening in the meditation that were pretty intense.
Yeah.
I needed time to process that as well. So that's why I was like 2 hours, we're done after 2 hours. And then, after that, I started feeling like these weird things, like I could heal with my hands and I had no idea that people did that. And I even said like, I see these dots on people and I don't know what they are. And somebody was like, handed me a book and they was like, do you mean these dots? And they were acupuncture points. And I was like, yeah,
Uh-huh.
dots. So for me, I was very sick as a child. So
Hmm.
I was basically raised in the Western medicine and like nobody talked about alternative medicine. Nobody said get acupuncture or chiropractic or use some essential oils or stop eating dairy. Or actually they did say stop eating dairy. That was one thing they did say.
Yeah.
But they weren't really looking for answers that would be, like let's say easier, like eliminating something. They kept adding in drugs or treatments or,
Yeah.
things like that. And I just never felt well until I was around 26 years old and I was stressed out. And then I started meditating and I was like, wait a second, like I'm 26. If this is what I look like and this is what I'm taking right now, I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life and it's only going to get worse. So
Yeah.
that's when I decided to really do some research. So I had the meditation going on. I had some things opening up, some gifts opening up. And I also felt kind of crazy because like I started seeing energy and I was so I was like, I need to find out what that is. And also let's start getting healthy because, we're not going to, I didn't want to spend the rest of my life taking drugs. Like,
Yeah.
the doctor said that I would have to take.
Hmm.
And sure enough, the combination of the two got me healthy, and the more that I researched like what gets people healthy, the smaller it became. So like first it was like plants, introduce plants, and then it was like, oh, essential oils are really cool, but like what is behind essential oils and that makes them so powerful? And it was vibration. And
Yeah.
that's what I realized. Like I was doing the energy work and I was like, oh, there it is. Like
Yeah.
it's all vibration. We're just interacting with this world and, um it's changing who we are and how we feel and even the thoughts. Like so I picked up the biology of belief by
Hmm.
Bruce Lipton around that time because he was somebody who was scientific that was also spiritual, and I was like, great, this is my guy. And so then I started to interweave those things, and the real aha was really around the thoughts and how it created the environment that we were living in within.
Yeah.
And I started to clean that up drastically.
Yeah. Can you can you share a little bit more on like vibration? Because I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand. I mean, there'll be some people on this that might not understand energy and vibrations. Could you share a little bit more about that?
Sure. Yeah. So essentially, we are energetic beings, and people are like, "Oh, well, that's not scientific." I'm like, "Yeah, it is. The cells are communicating through energy. Our heart beats in sync because the electrical energy. I mean, we use it in modern day science to diagnose people and things like that. So yes, energy, the body is energetic and it does have a field, and the field is actually very strong over the heart and over the brain and the eyes and the ovaries. for specific reasons, and that has to do with the mitochondria. And that is creating different frequencies. So all of them, all your organs, and bones and things like that vibrate at a different frequency, and that makes a total frequency. It makes a total energy field.
Yeah.
And when I do, or I don't do energy sessions anymore, but when I did them, I can feel the energy that is coming off of somebody's body. I can feel where it's stuck. I can see where it's stuck. And I
Mhm.
can even find out what information is in there. So like I can zoom in and see that around somebody's knee, they had an accident, and I can see how old they were, and I can see, how the accident happened, and I can see how the energy is not flowing. And then I would go in and I would help to move the energy.
Yeah.
And then the pain would go away and the person could, resume their activities. And so, seeing that time and time again in different areas of the body on different people, I started to think there's something here. There's definitely healing that is happening.
Yeah.
And that had to do with my vibration or my energy interacting
Mhm.
with their energy.
Yeah. I love that you have the science background so you can kind of like piece things together, and it just makes things a little bit more, you know, easier for you to grasp. But still, I mean, did you have a challenging time when you first started to realize that like how things actually functioned and energy? Did you have a hard time like when you started doing meditation? Was there any like things that were like, whoa, is this real?
Right. Well, so I did. I started meditating, and one time I was sitting there and I was thinking of my twin sister, not realizing it. It's like you're sitting there meditating and everything's happy and fine, and then all of a sudden a thought comes in, and then it leaves, and you're like, "Wait, what was that?" Well, I did that with my twin sister, and except for my eyes started to burn as I thought about my twin sister,
Mhm.
and I was like, "Oh, what?" It dragged me out of my meditation, and I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
my eyes are burning." And I was like, that's weird. So I closed my eyes and they started burning, and I opened them and they didn't burn. And so I was like, what did I just think of? And that's where I got good at like rewinding the tape and being like, okay, what was the last thought or last few thoughts? What was I thinking about? And it was my twin sister. So I had the courage, because it was her, to
Yeah.
call her and say, I said, how are you feeling? What's going on? And she goes, oh, I have a double pink eye infection. Did mom tell you? And I was like, no, and you're never going to believe what just happened. So I thought, okay, maybe it's one off, like maybe it was just twin tuition or something like that.
Yeah.
The next day, I was sitting there meditating, and I thought of my dad and my tooth hurt. And I was like, oh my gosh, is this happening again? And so I called my mom and I said, is dad okay? And she said, yes, but he just broke his tooth on a walnut, and he's at the dentist. Yeah. So I was like really freaked out. I mean, nobody had talked to me about the fact that you could pick up other people's feelings or sensing, what was going on in their body. And so then I was like, how do I make it stop? Like, cause this is
Yeah.
actually annoying, my eyes
Yeah.
are, my teeth hurting, like
I
what's
can
next?
relate. I can
Yeah.
so relate to
Yeah.
what
And
you're.
what I didn't realize was I was actually doing it my whole life. Like I was picking up on the emotions of other people and thinking that they were mine.
Mhm.
So that has been a big eye opener for me, is learning how to clear other people's energy out of my space. Um, but also just strengthening my field so that other people's energy doesn't get in my space as easily.
Yeah. What are some of the tools that you've used? Like, what has really helped you? Because I know for me personally, that was my story too. My whole life, I didn't realize I was picking up other people's stuff. And, there's so much that goes along with that, but just really not understanding that. And I know that there's a lot of people who really don't even get it, and they could use some tools. So I don't know, what were some of the main things that really helped you?
So I will talk about one main tool that's really transformational and like blew my mind when I actually put it all together and learned what it could do for the body. But I'll first talk about how when we pick up, so this is something that probably a lot of people don't realize. When we pick up energy like that, there is a similar energy within our space
Hmm.
that has not been moved yet. So
Yeah.
um, it it is triggering an awareness of something that needs to be moved within you. So
Yeah.
it's a healing is like there's a healing opportunity there. So I mean, yes, my tooth and my sister's eyes, that's a little different, because I think that was more of like a learning lesson,
Mhm.
for me to get what was going on. But I know that when I worked with my clients and I'd be, moving some energy and it just wouldn't move out. And I knew that normally it would. I would
Yeah.
take a look at it and I would say, where's what we call the matching picture?
Mhm.
Where's the similar energy within me that I have not yet moved, that they are presenting for me to see how I can move within myself. So, and then at that point, I would look at it and I'd clear it, and then it would be clear in them. And it was unbelievable. It happened hundreds of times,
Yeah.
and that's when I was like, that's it's so amazing because people look at people like me, like a healer, it's like, oh, that's so great, she has it so easy, but like it's not actually that easy. Like it's
No.
a lot to work through and a lot to figure out. But the beauty of it is that when somebody comes to see me for healing, or when they did come to see me for healing, I also got a healing, and that is something that isn't talked about as much. And
Yeah.
and it can be on just a level of, I'm downloading the energy, creating a very strong energetic field. I'm holding love and their perfect self in mind, and therefore it's reflected back to me.
Yeah.
I get that healing, but also those little nuances where I could be working for months and months and months on something, and then somebody shows up in my field and I see it in them, and then I can see it in myself.
Yeah, I love that you shared that because it's not talked about as much. I mean, it's hard to grasp like any of this for somebody who's new to energy, but like it's real that we actually sometimes we draw these things into our life to work through them on ourselves and the other person. And same, I can so relate, like where I've done the same work and I feel, oh, like I shifted too. So we get
Mm-hmm.
to shift each person that comes into our life, we get to learn and grow from. And it's beautiful when we get to look at it that way.
Right. So you asked me about vibration, and that's really what we're doing is like
Yeah.
when somebody comes to see me or when I'm working on somebody, I'm raising my vibration, I'm raising their vibration, but really that's what we call it. But really we're returning the person to the original blueprint, if you will, like
Yeah.
what their soul would have been like had they not had trauma, had they not had injuries or, programming from society or programming from other people. We're just like kind of going in there and pulling out the things that are not really necessary to be there anymore. It's
Yeah.
not really who they are. And then they feel great because then they all of a sudden moves out then comes in is their truth and their soul energy.
Yeah. We get to make room for like higher vibrations and better stuff to come through and actually just access more of like who we are at our core.
Hmm.
Yeah. I think you shared like what are some of the modalities you've used? Have you used different modalities?
Yes. So again, I know I feel bad for those that may be just starting out. I want to let you all know I'm actually a normal person. Like I really I may not seem like it or sound like it, but I I was a science teacher. Like I really did not expect all this to happen, and little by little my gifts were unfolding, and I took classes and I listened to podcasts or books on tape and speakers and things like that, and I was willing to stay curious and like wonder, why is this happening, why am I seeing these things, or what are these connections? And little by little, over 14, 15 years now, I've made a lot of sense out of it, so it
Yeah.
sounds very coherent and very easy, but let me tell you, it was like a path like this and sometimes like this. You go backwards and you go forwards, and you think you're crazy, and then you think you're brilliant.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, now I get it all, I understand it, and then you're like, wait, I don't think I do. uh,
I'm like everything that you're saying, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. It's like,
yeah,
woo! Like,
it's
am I
not
crazy?
linear.
Oh, I'm gonna save the world. Maybe, like, maybe not. I don't know. Like, it's just
Yeah, maybe all I have to do is just save myself, and then that will save the world.
yes.
I don't know. It's for whatever we make of it is, and if we dedicate ourselves to it, it becomes a beautiful journey. It
Yeah.
becomes something that is so interesting. It's probably the best book you'll ever read, right? Like, because you're
Yeah.
creating it, you're living it, you're wondering, what's the next thing that's going to come along. And people often say that about me, about I have this childlike energy around discovery and like what's happening, and how do we do this better and things like that, because there is no one way, and there is no perfect way.
Yeah. I totally agree. I mean, we all are going, I mean, I think everybody has their own journey and it's not going to look the same as anybody else's. So let people have their journey, let them explore. And for me, it's been a journey of learning just not to judge,
Mm,
because for so long that, you know, we're supposed to look, be, act a certain way to be loved and accepted, and it's challenging. So working through all those things to not do them yourself, it's just
Right.
a journey.
There's a great quote, and I don't know who said it, but it is, once you've ruined your reputation, you can live quite freely. So I kind of like, hey, this is all the weird stuff I do. Now I can
Yeah,
like be as weird as I want. I can be as curious as I want. I can put the connections
yeah,
together. And, and not to say that I really ruined my reputation. I don't think I did. But when you have that mentality of like, this is me, this is my journey, this is what I'm making of it. And I'm happy. I may
yeah.
look crazy, but I'm happy. Isn't that all that
Yes,
matters?
yes, I love that. Is there any moments for you that you had like any massive shifts? I know you had the one where you're doing the meditation, but any like moments where you had some massive shifts doing this work with yourself? I love to take people back to those moments where they can share it and actually step into that space.
Sure. I mean, pretty much the first few times that I did healings, I was like, what is going on? This is crazy. Um, the healings that they were getting and walking away with, it was really hard for me to watch because it was so powerful that I didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So that was very transformational for me. And I would say, the first few times that I spoke to people who've crossed over and I knew things about that, that was also very life changing because I was like, okay, so now I've added a new type of
Yeah.
or communication, and really it all boils down to energy. Like I was trying to make sense of it all, and it's really as simple as it's just energy.
Yeah.
It's either energy in the body or it's energy of the person's soul still around, or it's something that needs to be moved because it's trauma, and they're showing me a picture of what they are still holding on to. It's all just energy, and I'm just really good at reading it. That's all.
Yeah. That's one thing that I like to say. Like everything is energy. You
Yeah.
like we don't really in our modern worlds, like we don't really look at things in that way and like think about it to that degree.
Yeah. I had another huge aha moment when I did a study on people with Parkinson's. I wanted to see, first of all, what I could do to help them because I knew I
Yeah.
could. But I wanted to see what it would look like if I worked on the same 8 people for 8 weeks and nobody else. So it didn't confuse me about like what I was seeing or, remembering. And what was weird was every week the energy was the same among them. Like they were working on the same things. And I
Mhm.
was like, this is weird. There's an energy signature to Parkinson's. There's an energy
Yeah.
signature to other, and since then I've figured out there's other energy signatures to all diseases. And it makes
Mhm.
sense because the energy is what's signaling to the body and the body is responding, right? And
Yeah.
be responding in symptoms, specific symptoms.
Yeah.
So when I realized that, I was like, that's really cool, but like how do I undo the signature? Like because
Mhm.
these people don't want to have Parkinson's and
Yeah.
like people don't want to have Lyme disease or any of the other ones that I was working with. And what I realized was like I had to figure out what was the emotional component that was creating that energy signature, or what were the uh, predominant thoughts that were creating that energy signature. And that's when I discovered EFT,
Mhm.
which is emotional freedom technique. And that's
Yeah.
where you can reprogram the mind and release trauma from the body and create a new energy field or a new signature. So you basically have a new orientation to the world and you present differently when you move out trauma and these beliefs or thoughts.
Yeah. Did you want to share any tapping?
Sure. Yeah. So EFT is emotional freedom technique, and it's an energy-based protocol where you tap on the body, and the tapping alone, it really calms the body. It sends the signal that that so for instance, like if you see, we used to be afraid of snakes. I don't know about you, but I mean,
Like sometimes
okay,
depends.
so it was major programming for my mom, and so like I would really freak out. Like I'm talking like jump like 3 feet in the air and then start running.
Uh-huh.
And so for me, all I'd have to do is see it. And this is another example of energy. When you see something that you're afraid of, your whole body reacts instantaneously,
Yeah.
and that's because of an energy signal.
Mhm.
if you were to take medicine, it takes 20 minutes for it to be broken down and sent to all the other cells and things like that. That's a chemical reaction. This is an energetic reaction within the body. So that's why when we are clearing our energy through EFT or energy healing, it works so fast because you're doing energy with energy, right?
Yeah.
So EFT is used to help to change the brain. So like I would be freaking out, and if I'm thinking about a snake, and obviously my brain and my body is going nuts, and I start tapping on my body, I'm interrupting the signal. My brain is like, what's that? What's going on? Why is there some kind of new signal coming in that feels actually kind of calming? Like this doesn't make sense. And so the brain is smart enough that it will take down the neural network, and it will build a new one in relation to this new signal of like tapping on the body, saying these words, even though I am afraid of a snake, I deeply love and accept myself. It also, in my opinion, the energy travels out the different meridians and the different points that are on the body,
Yeah.
but also layers come off of the body. And the body, when you're in fight or flight, you're contracted. And when you do EFT, you expand, your whole energy field expands. And that shows that you're not like in a curled up position like you would energetically or physically, like a
Mm-hmm.
fetal position. You actually expand, you come up, you stand up straight. Your digestion can happen. Your energy is not in your extremities. You're in a relaxed state. And that's why EFT is so brilliant and so amazing and so quick, because it does this. It interrupts that signal and it rewrites the neural pathways. And then you have a new orientation. And if you do it for an hour, it will turn on 72 genes for healing, and it will lower cortisol levels by 24%.
Wow.
Yeah.
I haven't heard about that one before. That's amazing.
Yeah. And I honestly think it does a lot more that we haven't even discovered yet. I really think that you can change intergenerational patterns. You can, it's pretty awesome. They'll figure all of it out.
Yeah. Is there anything in specific that you can recall that you supported people doing EFT work, and anything that like was great that you got to experience helping people shift?
Sure. So a lot of people who are probably going to be listening to this are chronically ill or have been chronically ill. And so people who are chronically ill are very energetically sensitive, in my opinion. We are able to sense what other people need and want from us, and we can feel it so strongly that we kind of think it's ours. How I
Yeah.
was saying
Yes.
earlier,
Mm-hmm.
and we can think, oh, that's part of my agenda, but really it's not. And so for many years, we go through life doing these things for other people. And then we get to the other side, let's say 30 years, we're like, what happened to me being, a professor or, something else other than what we are, or having 5 children instead of 1 or whatever. We're like, oh, I was pleasing all these other people, and I'm unhappy and I'm sick now. And people don't understand how to undo that. And so basically the reason why I'm saying this is a lot of people who are listening have chronic illness and have probably gotten a diagnosis. And I use EFT with those clients to help move out that diagnosis as an identity. Because unfortunately, when somebody says, oh, you have asthma, that's what I was told when I was growing up. Like, we start to believe that is part of our identity.
Yeah.
And how are we supposed to heal from something that is a part of us?
Mm-hmm.
How we have to move it outside of our field. It's not that we don't want to know that we have asthma, because we need to handle it and we need whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to separate ourselves from the diagnosis. And so I use EFT to say, like, even though I received that diagnosis, and obviously the diagnosis can be much worse than asthma, or, it could be cancer, it could be,
Yeah.
other things like that. And you can, as long as you separate yourself from those things, you have the chance to move out the trauma that was created from learning about the diagnosis, but then also you give yourself space to start healing.
Yeah. It's just so valuable because everybody, just we get to medicate things and not really get to the root of, like, actually even knowing, like, we can heal these things. Like, I know there's a lot of things that I've learned that are healable, and doctors say that they're not.
Right. I was that person many
Yeah.
times over. But in myself, I
Yeah.
mean, I was 16 years old and I broke my lower back, and the doctor said, you'll never play sports again. You'll never have a stand-up job. You'll never have a sit-down job. And I was 16 years old, and I was like, this is all I know. Soccer is what I know. I love school, but like, I wasn't planning on being a scholar, even though I would like to be one now.
Yeah.
The time I was like, I just want to play soccer, and then I was like, what am I going to do for the rest of my life if I can't have a stand-up job or a sit-down job? Like, what is that? Like, how am I going to support myself? So I just said to the doctor, I was just like, no, that's not my reality.
Yeah.
And I was 16 years old, and this is before I had started doing any of this work.
Mhm.
And I healed my back, and I went and I played soccer, and I've had stand-up jobs, and I've had sit-down jobs. I'm like, who are you to tell me what the rest of my life is going to look like?
Mhm.
I really, in that moment, I remember that moment when my mom was like, so what are you going to do? Are you going to have the surgery, or are you going to heal?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to heal.
Yeah. I love that. That's so powerful. There's so many people out there that get diagnoses and they live longer or they break through and heal. And it's just so powerful for you to be able to share that story, because really our minds and our bodies are so much more powerful than people actually believe that they are.
Right. It takes a lot of ownership,
Yeah.
because if you want to be empowered, the thing that got you into the predicament, you have to take ownership for, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people aren't willing to take ownership of that, and
Yeah.
so it's extreme ownership.
Yeah. It
If
can
you
be
want to
challenging.
heal, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I've definitely worked with people where it's like they're like, but what if I don't want to let go of this? And I'm like, how could you even say that? Like, but again, like I'm like, I get it. I do get it. But it's like, it's the ego holds on to a lot of stuff, and people just don't really get, there's people that don't grasp things, and this might not be their journey. But ultimately, I, you know, my heart
right.
is for them being on this journey, so we get to share our hearts with people and be guides.
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard when you don't want to let go of something. I mean, I've been there 100 times over, maybe 1,000 times over. You think, what will happen? Who will I be if I let go of that? Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to do that in order to start seeing energy and being able to help people heal. Like, I had to let go of the science teacher,
Yeah.
where I was just, everything was left brain, and everything was science based or evidence based or research based.
Mm.
I had to let that go in order for the other stuff to appear. And guess what happened? The research came, so
Mhm.
thankfully I wasn't entirely wrong.
Yeah.
But I had to let go of it, and some people are just scared of what that might look like. They're
Yeah.
scared of who they are going to become and what will be asked of them if they're in
Yeah.
that new state.
That's definitely one of the biggest lessons on this journey, let go.
Yeah.
Because I mean, for me, I've experienced like I want to let go, but really energetically my body, and it was challenging to be able to let it go. It's been a process of understanding how to do it and being like dedicated to this journey of not giving up, because I know I want better. I know that my past doesn't have to define me, and I know that this is the way. It's shedding the crap that we've stored in our body so we can replace it and with positivity and be that light and support for people.
Sure. And that's why I love EFT. It really helps to move that physical component out. Like, our brain can say, I want to lose weight, but the body is remembering all the trauma of when you didn't lose weight, right? And
Yeah.
so you let's say won't lose weight because you're like, well, losing weight is scary. I don't eat, like my body starves or whatever, or I exercise too much and then I get sore and I get sick or whatever. So the brain and the body have a different story that they're running off of versus what we're like, oh, I want to lose weight. The body's
Yeah.
like, oh, we'll tell you about that. And so that's why EFT will help get the brain and the body on the same page and release that trauma so that your efforts aren't futile, that
Yeah.
your body isn't working against you.
Hmm. Yeah. I think it's it's great that like the tapping in, including your body in it, because so many people are in their head, and it's kind of challenging when you don't include the body. You can,
It's impossible if you don't include the body.
well,
That's
I
what
mean,
I've
like,
seen. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, like if other people are doing the work with people, like it's I feel like it could be more, it could be quite supportive to be able to include where the people are actually touching their bodies, and
Hmm.
like just recognizing I have a body, like I'm not just my mind, because for my life, most of my life I was stuck in my head.
Right. Well, trauma will do that. Trauma will make us check out, and it's as if we don't have a body. And like you said, that's one of the things that I love about it. It brings us right back in, and then we're like, okay, now I can move that energy because I'm actually checked in, I'm aware. In fact, when I work with a client, I actually will see their chakras flipped when they're checked out. So I will have to wait to talk to them to get them checked back in so that we can move the energy, or we'll tap to get them back into their body.
Yeah. Is there anything else that your heart feels called to share about? Anything that you're passionate about?
I would just say stay curious. Just say, how is this happening for me, and rather than to me, because I think that a lot of us have this programming that we're just a victim to our circumstances, and if we really have that one switch where it's why is this happening for me rather than to me, no matter what it is, like it can be the saddest of things. If you can look at that and say there has to be a reason for this, like the choice is either that somebody's doing this to me, or something is doing this to me,
Yeah.
or maybe this is for my best good. Maybe I'm supposed to learn something and grow from this. And
Hmm.
I, I think it's a much better place to live, where you look at the world through that lens of, these things are happening for me. This is helping me progress in
Yeah.
the direction that I actually want. It may not look like it, and it doesn't always look like that for even maybe for years.
Hmm.
Like I said, I was, all over the place. Like, why can I talk to dead people? Why can I feel what people, is going on in their body? Why can I heal people? Why was I a science teacher? Why did I have a psychology degree? Like,
Yeah.
and then I was like, oh, now I get it. So it can feel like a very weird winding path, but when we stay curious, we can put it all together eventually.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, now I know why I picked up all those skills.
Hmm. I love that. There's a lot of power in our past and our stories.
Hmm.
Well, did you have? I think you had a program or something that you wanted to share.
Sure. Yeah. So I go way more into EFT and about how to do it. So there's lots of different points. There's one here, here, and then they're around the body. And then some of the phrases that you can say. But again, I talk about the science and more in depth. And then I also talk about, distance energy healing. It's really for the person who's just starting out, like for the person who doesn't understand how to clear their energy, or
Hmm.
what the quantum field is, or what a grounding mat is, or why you would use it. I talk about all that kind of stuff, and the chakras. And I mean, I was that person where somebody was like, hey, so like talking about the chakras. And I was like, one question, I don't remember that, being in the body, right? That's not in the body. What are you talking about? And they were like, no, it's energy. Like, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll look
Yeah.
that up. So anyway, I go into that and all the different chakras, and how there's information that's stored within there that's so useful for us. So like if we're dealing with something in our life, we can look at what chakra it is and what the lesson is there, and we can use that even to tap. So
Yeah.
I go into all that, and it's called You Are Energy.
Yeah. So we'll include that on our summit as well.
Cool.
So, um, well, Amy, I mean, is there any last things
Oh
that
no,
you might
I'm
want to share?
good.
I love everything that you shared, and there's just so much value in like your past and what you've learned. And I can feel your presence and the fact that you've been doing this work.
Thank you.
So thank you. I just really want to thank you for sharing your story and all of the work that you've been doing to be on this journey.
Thank you. And you as well. You're doing great work. So
Thank
thank you for
you.
doing that.
Yeah, it's just nice to be able to relate to a lot of your story and hear like all of the things that I'm like, yeah, that me too. Yeah.
That's cool. I
So
love it.
and we get to support other people, and I'm just so thankful that you are here today, you know, doing this journey with me and creating something to support people.
You're
So
welcome. It's my
thank
pleasure.
you. All right.